Hello everyone, we are going to talk about Chapter 9, Section 9.1 in this video. As usual, please pause the video, read the question carefully, and then listen to the solution. So for the first part, the question is, what is the value of f of 95 and 70? As we see in the order that we have here, the first one is about actual temperature and the second one is about the relative humidity. So when it says f of 95 and 70, we're going to connect them. 95 is here and 70 is here. So it will be 124 degree Fahrenheit, and it means that when the actual temperature is 95 degree Fahrenheit, the relative humidity is 70%. The perceived air temperature is approximately 125 degree Fahrenheit. So this is the meaning. Part B says, what are the meanings of the functions I equal f of 80 and h? So when the first one is 80, it means that the first variable, which is temperature, is going to be fixed, and the second one varies. So h varies, but the first one, which is temperature, is fixed. So the meaning of f of 80 and h is when T is fixed, the temperature is fixed as at 80 degree, humidex values changes as the relative humidity change. So one of them is fixed, the other one is changing. And same for the second one, I equals F of 100 and H. It means that the temperature is fixed at 100 degree Fahrenheit and humidex changes. So when the first one is fixed, the second one is changing here. And it says compare the behavior of these two functions. So when you take a look at these amounts here and also these amounts here, we can conclude that when f of 80 and h, when the temperature is fixed at 80, it increases slowly and almost at a constant rate. So you see 77, 78, 79, 81, 82, 83, almost constant. While the other one, it means this row is increasing much faster, especially when the relative humidity increases, the actual temperature is increasing much faster comparing when it is 80. Let's do number 2. So please pause the video, read the question, and then listen to the solution. So about the first part, expressing the cost of making X plane bars and Y bars with almond as a function of two variables, we can write C, which can be f of x and y, as it says here, is going to be 1.10 times x plus 1.25 times y plus 10,000. For part B, f of 2,000 and 1,000 means that 2,000 is going to be replaced for x and 1,000 for y. So it means that you're going to write 1.10 times 2,000 plus 1.25 times 1,000 plus 10,000. This is what we should multiply them together, add them up, and you get $13,450 for this. Meaning is it costs $30,400 to make 2,000 plain bars and 1,000 bars with almonds. For part C, what is the domain of f? So f is this one. It is a polynomial and it doesn't have any restriction regarding being polynomial and domain of that. But the point is x is representing the number of planes, and y is representing the number of bars, plain bars and almond bars. So the number of those bars cannot be negative. In this case, we're going to write the domain as all x and y values such that x is greater than 0 or equal to 0 and y is greater or equal to 0. And the reason is because these are representing the number of something, and that number cannot be a negative number. So let's do number 3. So this is what we have for G, and we're going to evaluate that. So in order to evaluate that, it's enough that we replace for that. So for G of 2 and -1, we're going to plug in for x and y, and that would be cosine of 2 minus 2, which is cosine of 0, and it's going to be 1. For part B, it says find the domain of G. So G is cosine. It's a trig function. And for cosine, we know that it accepts all the amounts. So x plus 2y is always defined here. And the domain will be all x and y pairs, and it is valid for all x and y. So if you don't remember what this is, this flipped A means for all. Or you can write it as domain of G is just R squared. Because for X, we have the domain of R and for Y as well. So both of them will make R squared. Part C, find the range of D. So we said that cosine function accepts all the amounts of numbers and the things that the values that we would have for x plus 2y. This is why the domain of G is R squared. But based on these inputs, what is the output? Range means the output. Whatever you put for cosine as the input, you would get a number between -1 and 1 included. And this would be the range of G here. Number 4, we're going to find and sketch the domain of these functions. Let's do part A. It says f of x and y, which is the square root of x times y. We know that in order to have this function as a defined function, whatever you have under radical should be positive. So we would say x times y will be greater or equal to 0. So when this happens, for the domain of f, we're going to say that we would accept all pairs of x and y in a way that this multiplication is 0. This is enough to write this in this way. And if you want to say that more specific, it means that x can be 0 and y can be 0. So both of them at the same time, because the answer would be a number greater or equal to 0. Or x can be negative and y can be negative. So if both of them are negative, so negative times negative would be positive, and it's obvious for 0. And how can we draw that? Notice that we are drawing the domain. We're sketching the domain, not the function. So we're going to highlight these two. All x values and y values that are positive would be here, including the positive part of x-axis and y-axis. Also, both of them negative, including the negative part of x and y-axis. What about part B? For part B, the function is f of x and y equals ln of x squared plus y squared minus 2. For ln functions, we say that it is defined only when the expression that we have here, in this case, x squared plus y squared minus 2 is positive, not 0, only positive. And if we solve it, we would get something like this, which is familiar for us. This is representing a circle with the center 0 and 0 and the radius square root of 2. But which part of this circle is accepted? We would say that the domain here is all pairs that if you square the first component plus the second component, the answer would be more than 2. This is the way that we write the domain. But what are these? These are the outside of the circle. And also, since we don't have any equal sign, we wouldn't accept this line of the circle as well. So it's better if I write something like this, because we cannot have that in the domain. And all the amounts that are outside of this circle is the domain of this function. Number 5. Sketch the graph of the function for part A. It's just f of x and y equals 0. So it can be said that we have z equals 3, or f of x and y is 3. So if I can write, it will be something like this. 3 here, a plane, horizontally standing at z equals 3. And it goes through the point 0 and 0 and 3. Because in this case, we only have fixed the z value. And the x and y values can change. This is why we have a plane. And this point here is this one. So x values can be positive, negative, y values can be positive, negative. This makes a plane. For part B, it says f of x and y is equal to 1 plus 2 squared plus 2x squared plus 2y squared. So as we have talked in the lecture, we're going to find traces. So if we want to find the traces, we would set x equals 0 for the first step. If we do so, z will be 1 plus 2y squared. So what is this? This is a parabola opening upward because this is positive. But where can we draw that? It will be a parabola. So opening upward, but in the plane of y and z, because we have only y and z here and we don't have x, we set that equal to 0. So it is a parabola opening upward, but if we want to draw that, we would go to YZ plane and draw that. Same thing when we set y equals 0, because we need these traces to draw that. So the answer would be 1 plus 2x squared here. It also will be a parabola opening upward, but this time it will be on xz plane. So let's see what happens when z is equal to 0. it will be 0 equals 1 plus 2x squared plus 2y squared. Is it possible? The answer is no. Or maybe if I subtract 1 both sides, 2x squared plus 2y squared will be negative 1, when we know that it is impossible to have a negative number with adding all positive numbers. So what can we do now? We can find the level surface in this case. So level surface means that z will be a number, any number. What makes this? It will be c equals 1 plus 2x squared plus 2y squared. It means that in this case, x squared plus y squared will be c minus 1 and then divided by 2 in order to get rid of these two here. So what if c is 1? It means that x squared plus y squared will be 0, which will be our starting point because this is a circle with a center 0, 0 and radius 0. It means a point. And that point will be 0 and 0 and 1 because c is 1 here and c is a number replacing z here. Another case is when c is more than 1. When c is more than 1, it means that c minus 1 here will be a positive number. And when c increases, the amount of c minus 1 is increasing as well. When dividing by 2, that would be increasing as well. So the radius increases, the center would be the same because we have x squared plus y squared. And it means that the circles that we would have here are going to be larger and larger. And if c is negative, if c is less than 1, it means that x squared plus y squared will be a negative number because when it is less than 1, minus 1 over 2 will be a negative number. Okay, so again, x squared plus y squared cannot be a negative number, so it is impossible here. With having all of these, how can we draw that? If I want to summarize the drawing steps, the first one will be drawing the axes as always that we have to do. So x, y, and z. And the second part is plotting the points that we have. We had only one point here, which was 0, 0, and 1, which is the starting point. It can be somewhere here. We have only z value, this one. And again, drawing the parabolas that we got in xz plane. So this part here is the xz plane, okay? And also the negative part. So when I want to draw the parabola here, that would be something like this. And the next one in yz plane. Okay, the first one was yz plane and the other one will be xz plane. So it can be redrawn something like this. My drawing is not very good, but you may draw it much better. And this will be a paraboloid. And the important part is when we are here, the circles are smaller, and as it goes up and up, the circles are going to be larger and larger. This can be a typical way of drawing paraboloid. So number 6, we're going to draw a contour map of the function f of x and y equals y minus x squared, showing several level curves. In order to find level curves, we would say that z or f of x here would be a number like k. So k is going to be y minus x squared. it means that y is going to be x squared plus k. We know this one is a parabola in 2D dimensional plane. So when k changes, it can be 0, we would have y equals x squared. If it is 1, it will be y equals x squared plus 1, and so on. So the level curves are going to be like this as x squared plus 1, or maybe a negative amount, like -2 for k. This is 0. And the number 7 is about finding the limit if exists, or show the limit does not exist. So for the first one, since it is a rational function and it is continuous on its domain because of being rational function, it's only enough to plug in 2 for x and 1 for y. If we do so, the top will be 4 minus 2, and the denominator will be 2 squared plus 3, and the answer is 2 over 7. The second one is not a rational function, so we will do it with another way. In another method that says that you're going to approach 0, 0 with different paths. So for these paths, let's say we're going to move along x-axis, and we're going to say that x changes, it's approaching 0, it's not going to be exactly 0. So y can be 0 here. So we're going to do something like this. And when y is 0, we would say that the limit here, when x and y is going to approach 0 and 0, of the function xy cosine of y over 3x squared plus y squared is going to be 0. And it is defined here. What if we're going to fix y and x is going to be 0? Same thing happens, and the limit will be 0. So does it mean that we have a proof that the limit is going to be 0? The answer is no. But we may find another path. Let's say we're going to be close to the point 0 and 0 using the line y equals x, as we have talked about this in the lecture. So in this case, f of x and y will be f of x and x, and it's going to be x squared because instead of each y, we are going to replace x. That would be x squared cosine of x over 4x squared. So if you plug in x here, approaching 0. Before applying x equals 0, you can cancel these two, and the answer will be the limit of cosine of x over 4. We know that when x is approaching 0, cosine of 0 is 1 over 4. So we have found two different amounts for a limit with two different paths. One of them 0, the other one 1 over 4, and it means that the limit does not exist. Number 8. Determine the set of the points at which the function that is given to us is continuous. About this function, we know that Ln of something is going to be defined when this amount is also defined. But how can we find that? Let's say the inside can be something like f of x and y. So if we apply the limit of this, we can say that we are applying another function here. So we can summarize that as capital G of x and y in the form of combination 2 function. So about the inside function, f here is a polynomial, and it is continuous on every value or amount of x and y. So it is defined on r squared. When this is defined and the range of f, since it is polynomial, would be r squared as well, it's going to be about g to be defined. G of x is ln, not x, let's change the variable. Let's say t here, is going to be ln of t. And this function is continuous only when t is positive. So altogether, when capital G is going to be defined and also continuous on its domain, the domain is all x and y values, the pairs in a way that these two conditions here are satisfied. And it will be happen when x squared plus y squared minus 4, which is the input for lowercase g, is going to be positive. And we have to rewrite it as x squared plus y squared more than 4, and it will be a circle, not the circle itself, because we don't have any equal sign here. But the radius is 2, the center is 0 and 0, and all the amounts that are more than this is where capital G is defined and continuous.